So real quick before we get started, I have a subreddit now. Shout out to Adventure Bonnie for the awesome design work, and I guess go there if you want to ask me about stuff or give video suggestions. I honestly have no idea what to do with it. I just figured I'd let you all know it exists. Let it be your molding clay, sculpted into something beautiful. Anyway, moving on. Fair use? What a thrilling topic that no one's ever talked about. Yeah, I know, but it's rapidly becoming relevant again, and this whole YouTubers getting sued regularly thing is quite new, so fuck off. Getting sued can be absolutely terrifying. Depending on the type of lawsuit, it can take anywhere from a few months to a few years to be fully resolved, which can tally up to thousands upon thousands of dollars in both court costs and legal counsel fees. If someone were to be told they were being sued, they would naturally freak the fuck out, and for very good reason. But if that someone were being sued for what we'll generously call a not very good reason, well, that's all the more reason to freak out. Before we dig into the crux of what fair use actually is, we're going to take a quick look at some recent instances of fair use being brought into copyright disagreements. Very, very few YouTubers have actually been sued. However, threats of being sued are becoming more and more common, but these situations seldom ever escalate from threats. One of the most notable people to be threatened recently is I Hate Everything, known for his I Hate series of videos along with his film reviews and frequent coverage of trending topics. He recently had a video of his criticizing the film Cool Cat Saves the Kids striked and removed from YouTube, and when he attempted to appeal, the film's director, Daddy Derek Savage, claimed that he had a team of lawyers at his back ready to pounce, and even went as far as to probably, Daddy Derek, don't stab me, I said probably, not definitely. Derek, don't! Derek, don't! Probably impersonate a non-existent law firm representing filmmakers who, hilariously, had never even heard of IHE.
Your Movie Sucks decided to go digging and actually got in contact with the director of Jurassic Shark, Brett Kelly. Kelly's response was, "We don't know any Shapiro law firm and no one is acting on our behalf." And on Facebook even responded to Adam with, "P.S. No idea who Derek Savage is."
In trying to sue IHE for breaking a law that he didn't, Derek ironically broke the law himself, a practice that's been extremely well documented in the last few months on this website as false claims and strikes continue to run rampant.
Ignorance of the law is not an excuse.
At this point, Derek Savage is more of a decayed horse skeleton than a usable punching bag, so if you're still interested in that whole situation, make sure you check out I Hate Everything's 3 videos on it, as they cover it with a good amount of detail and a personal investment that I simply don't share. Less dramatically, but perhaps more frequently, YouTubers will receive completely unjustified copyright claims and strikes, but without threats. I mean, hell, I just recently received one that blocked viewership worldwide for a shitpost that featured a Zayn Malik song. I'm not going to play all the audio here for reasons that should be pretty obvious, but here's what it sounds like when it's violently distorted. It's currently back up on my second channel, so if you're really curious, I'll include a link on screen. But strangely, I filed a dispute on the claim, which was removed, and then immediately reinstated by the same company, but this time only blocking viewership in Germany and Switzerland. So I guess technically it's only up on my second channel if you don't live in Germany or Switzerland. My bad. However, my case is definitely one of the most minor ones, considering I don't have videos on my second channel monetized at all, so it practically didn't affect me. However, Adam Johnston, aka Your Movie Sucks, a movie reviewer, is regularly hit with copyright claims on videos old and new. While he unquestionably uses large amounts of footage from the films he reviews, his usage is practically a textbook example of how to correctly utilize fair use laws. Bizarrely, Red Letter Media's Plinkett reviews of the Star Wars prequels, which actually rival the runtime of the films they're reviewing, have not been claimed despite being based on what is now a Disney property, and Disney is not fond of their content being used in any way. And yet despite that, the amount of claims that YMS has received and continues to receive has gotten him to the point that he has to largely rely on Patreon for any steady income, although that likely has a little something to do with his incredibly infrequent upload schedule as well. Not that I have any room to talk, but I don't have a Patreon. On top of that, Jim Sterling, best known for his video game review series The Jimquisition, has outright removed monetization from his videos and solely relies on Patreon due to the amount of copyright claims he both has received and would have received otherwise.
This is a crowdfunding effort for The Jimquisition to see it go ad-free, fully independent. It'll be hosted on the Jim Sterling YouTube channel.
Luckily, his fans actually supported him quite well there, so he's making a pretty great living for someone of his size. And perhaps my most depressing example comes in the form of Todd in the Shadows, a music reviewer who's actually on his second channel due to his last getting deleted, and who often has to delay uploads until he regains the ability to upload videos over 15 minutes. Todd's reviews of pop songs, both old and new, are honestly some of my favorite reviews on this site, due especially to his rather harsh and completely honest opinions about a genre that's incredibly difficult to love, and frankly, that I do love. Many only think of Great the New Teeth Tano when they think of music reviewers on YouTube, but I'd say that Todd deserves to be included right alongside him. Unfortunately, Todd's only reliable sites for uploading are that of his network/team, that guy with the glasses, who you might know for Doug Walker's Nostalgia Critic series, and Vimeo, YouTube's artsier, less popular cousin. Of course, neither of those sites have anywhere near a quarter of the viewership that YouTube has, and I personally believe that that limitation has severely stifled a considerable amount of growth that he could have experienced if not for these incredibly frequent and incredibly bullshit copyright claims against him. Those that rely on others' content as a basis for their own, which applies to me, all of those I've discussed, and many others I haven't, have to fear for videos being claimed and having the ad revenue taken from it. Either that, or it gets worse. We can receive a copyright strike, and as often applies with the word strike, once you get 3, your channel's gone. This recently happened to Team 4-Star, a channel with over 2 million subscribers, best known for their parody series of Dragon Ball Z. This deletion happened after they had worked out a deal to give all of their ad revenue from their series to the original creators.
Over the past couple weeks, takedown claims have been filed on several of our videos utilizing YouTube's copyright claiming system. The claims were made on the Japanese production side. This is far from the first time this has happened, but the overall scale is unprecedented, as this was enough to tank our channel.
Granted, this deletion only lasted a few hours due to an extremely loud outcry, and the channel was restored pretty swiftly, but these channels that do anime parodies, or abridged series, are mostly much smaller. While Team 4-Star at 2 million is a large channel by any standard, the next largest channel making videos of the same style is Little Karibo, who has just over 500,000 subscribers, and the gaps only get larger from there. If one of these smaller abridged channels, such as Eagle 8 Burger, Charleston VO, or My Toaster is Retarded, were to be taken down for the same thing, it would take a channel the size of Team 4-Star or Little Karibo noticing for there to be anything done about it. The fact that Team 4-Star's channel was able to make it all the way through the deletion process, considering their tremendous size, is genuinely shocking to me. One would think that YouTube might find it odd that a channel so egregiously violating copyright laws would have been caught well before reaching a milestone as huge as 2 million subscribers, and after being sent 2 play buttons from the company itself. But who needs double checking? There's no harm in not double checking. On the other end of the spectrum, only one YouTuber to my knowledge has ever attempted to sue a company for violations of fair use. In 2014, Ray William Johnson tried to sue Jukin Media over what Johnson saw as unfair copyright claims on 48 of his videos. For those who weren't on YouTube much back when a channel with 1 million subscribers was a rare sight, Johnson's series Equals 3 is essentially Tosh.0 without the smugness or charisma, known for its riffing on clips from viral YouTube videos that became popular in the previous week. My assumption is that the judge thought that the bulk of the relevance from their videos came from the clips and not their commentary, which,
It's just one of those things where, you know, you're like chilling in your neighborhood, you're having a good time, and then suddenly some fucking geese start running down the street. What the hell?
I'm not really sure I can disagree with. Whatever the reasoning, the judge told Equals 3 to fuck off, enforcing that their videos were not fair use. Apparently they reached some kind of outside deal to keep videos up and started a collaborative business relationship, but that was never really specified, and honestly, no one gives a shit about Equals 3 at this point. Why did I even bother? I realize I've just been telling you about a lot of scenarios that would involve fair use disputes without really telling you what fair use is. I'll leave a link to YMS's video on the subject, as he delves very in-depth on it in a video that's longer than this whole thing will probably be. But to give you a quick overview, fair use is a legal doctrine that lets people use copyrighted content to criticize, parody, report, and teach without permission from the copyright owners. However, the biggest issue with fair use is that people, especially YouTubers, have a misconception that this applies to everyone. It does not. Doug Walker made a video a decent while ago entitled Where's the Fair Use, where he attempted to spread awareness of unjust copyright claims, which started a slew of videos from a wide variety of YouTubers featuring the hashtag WTFU, which probably trended at some point, maybe. This video featured both YMS and I Hate Everything to further his points. However, in my opinion, the inclusion of these two YouTubers simply fed the ignorance of what the phrase fair use actually refers to and aided in further misinformation. While YouTube is an American company based in the United States, the content uploaded to it comes from all around the world. As a result, the content creators from different parts of the world are subject to different laws. Think of it like Netflix. If you have friends from Australia, you might hear them complain that Netflix's selection is absolute horseshit, while most people in the US are generally content with it. That's because copyright laws and publication rights don't extend overseas. They stay within the borders they were created in. If you're wondering how this all connects to fair use, as I said, fair use is a legal doctrine, but it only applies in the United States. Outside of the US, there's something similar called fair dealing, but it is often much more restrictive than the US's fair use. For example, in the United Kingdom, the amount of copyrighted material utilized is taken into consideration, along with the material's publication history, what the person utilizing the material is utilizing it for, and what the original owner could suffer from the individual's usage of their material. It's also only usable as a defense when being sued for copyright infringement, and proving that the usage was fair falls squarely on the user. The defense's parameters are very similar in Canada. Fair use, on the contrary, is essentially considered a right. Walker is perfectly justified in voicing criticisms that fair use hasn't done much to help him, but including I Hate Everything, a Brit, and YMS, a Canadian, in his video kind of muddies his point. It's entirely possible that I'm misinformed, and I'll happily amend this video if I am, but YouTube as a whole is not restricted to following the laws of the United States. It follows the laws of whatever country it's being accessed in, and copyright laws follow whatever country the material originated in. This does not invalidate the claims of some of these individuals, as many of them were receiving claims instructions strikes for reviewing American films, but technically speaking, if they were reviewing Japanese films, for example, they could be given a perfectly legal copyright claim or strike if they didn't acquire permission from the creator first. People are quick to fall back on fair use as a defense for copyright claims, but in many cases, those claims could be valid. YMS has claimed that his usage of copyrighted music as background music is covered by fair use, as no one will watch his videos as a substitute for listening to the music. While I agree that he's probably correct on the latter, I find his argument of it being fair use questionable at the very best. Using large portions of copyrighted music that's independent of what you're talking about isn't using it for criticism or parody or reporting or teaching. It's just using copyrighted music. However, this is far less of an egregious offense than what reaction channels do. Okay, I know, reaction channels have pretty much been picked dry, so I'll be speedy here. This...
You got it.
This is not fair use. Most of these gentlemen will claim that it's for criticism, which might be fair for some of them, but fair use is explicitly to aid people by using smaller portions of copyrighted material to transform it and criticize it. If you were to make a commentary for a feature-length film and put it on YouTube with the entire film playing on screen, it would be taken down almost immediately. Frankly, the Fine Brothers are really the only watch the video in the corner reaction channel that can make a decent argument for fair use, considering they trim the videos down considerably, replay clips for reactions from various people, and a solid 50% of the video is an, admittedly generic, interview segment where they basically ask everyone the same question. And before any of you defend Blasphemous HD because he pauses once every 7 videos, or every other day, to make a 4-second comment, then I'd like to politely ask you how you found this channel and why you haven't left yet. You can find him entertaining, there's nothing wrong with that, but if you don't see where his behavior is problematic, someone gouged your eyes out without you noticing somehow, and I'm incredibly sorry about that. With all of this said, I'll get to what I'm sure a lot of you are expecting me to address: the recent suing of H3H3 Productions. For those out of the loop, Ethan and Gila Klein were sued by Bold Guy, who I will be referring to by his birth name Matt Haas because that username is ridiculous, a YouTube pickup artist. For those of you who don't know what a pickup artist is...
Do you have a name?
I have a boyfriend.
Of course you do. But you're getting ahead of me now. I only asked you for your name.
Why do you want to know my name?
Maybe I'd like to get to know you better.
Sorry, that's not gonna happen.
Now, how can you predict the future with such certainty?
Because I already made a decision.
What decision?
To be with my boyfriend.
But that's a decision you made in the past.
You now realize you've probably met 12 of them and perhaps came to realize your friend Chad fits this description better than Keemstar's belly fits in a donut hole. Ethan and Gila did a video on their second channel of the same name reacting to one of Matt's videos. While I did just give reaction channels shit, I'd like to clarify that these two actually get a lot of credit as they genuinely make their videos focused on Ethan's jokes and personality rather than solely the content he's reacting to. I say he because I don't watch the second channel at all anymore, so I have no idea if it still applies to this one as well. Either way, they received a copyright notice on their video from Haas and swiftly privated it. For those unaware, once you counter a claim or a strike once and the claimant puts their foot down, you have to submit your full legal name and address, and in order for the claimant to keep the claim on your video, they have to be willing to sue you. Well, in a rare instance of astounding stupidity, the madman actually did it. The Kleins put up a video simply titled "We're Being Sued," where they discuss all of this in more detail and very confusingly show legal documentation. Now, I'm not exactly an expert on this, but considering that the lawsuit is active, I found it incredibly surprising that they were allowed to reveal the actual documents that they were being sued for, but clearly Ryan Morrison is an actual professional lawyer, so I should probably trust his judgment over mine. Now, I've expressed my distaste for Ethan as an individual in the past, but I have to give him some serious credit for what this was able to turn into, or at least potentially turn into. Philip DeFranco, a YouTuber many of you are vaguely aware of but probably don't watch, made a GoFundMe to help cover their legal fees, which received donations from many different YouTubers, all with varying opinions of Papa Klein. Now, I initially gave Ethan shit for this, as in their video they say,
"We can't ask you guys for more money."
But then we're constantly posting about the donations they received from larger YouTubers. I realize in retrospect that thanking people for donating north of $1,000 to you is really just the polite thing to do more than it is attention whoring, and I was probably being a little hasty. But even assuming I had stuck to that opinion, the fact that they opted to use the money to start the Fair Use Protection Account, or FOOP, god damn it, with all of the donations to help smaller channels be protected from unjust copyright claims is actually pretty admirable. Hard to say how their legal case with Mr. Haas will go, as theoretically the Ray William Johnson case was just as open and shut as this appears to be, and that clearly didn't work out. But if nothing else, they're trying to actually make a change for smaller channels, and it appears they're starting off with one of my favorites. Channel Criswell is, in my opinion, one of, if not the best film reviewers on YouTube. In fact, I'm happy to just say that he's one of my favorite movie reviewers, period. No YouTube disclaimer needed. While various YouTube movie reviewers tend to just give surface-level opinions on what they saw, and others essentially just reword the Rotten Tomatoes critical consensus for 6 minutes, Criswell, or Lewis Bond as his parents call him, goes incredibly in-depth on whatever film or director he's discussing, and one of his best videos covers Stanley Kubrick. Titled Stanley Kubrick: The Cinematic Experience, I can honestly only describe this video as an incredibly well-researched and edited documentary about Kubrick Kubrick's work, and I can't recommend it enough if you're a fan of filmmaking at all. Now, those of you who aren't terribly interested in filmmaking or movies might not know who Kubrick is, but you've undoubtedly seen or at least heard of a few of his films. 2001: A Space Odyssey, A Clockwork Orange, Lolita, Paths of Glory, Dr. Strangelove, Full Metal Jacket, Barry Lyndon, The Shining, Eyes Wide Shut. Well, Lewis made this astoundingly interesting, creative video, and rather than, as one commenter puts it, showing this on the Kubrick exhibition tour, which I'm not entirely certain is a real thing, but I agree regardless, they decided to sue him for,
if I've read it correctly, can be up to $150,000.
Lewis's video undoubtedly uses considerable portions of the films he's discussing, but his opinions and points made throughout it are the indisputable focal point of the video, and the source of its value. However, this is where the nationality of both Lewis and Kubrick's films, both British, comes into play. Lewis is not protected by fair use, but fair dealing, which he will now likely have to use as a legal defense when it comes time for him to go to trial. I find it very unlikely that Lewis won't come out on top in this situation, but again, I have to call back to Ray William Johnson. It's a mixed bag at very best how the court and the individual judge will respond to Lewis's completely legitimate claims, but then judges like to make terrible decisions from time to time, so what's to stop them from doing it now? When all's said and done, fair use and, to a lesser extent, fair dealing are unquestionably beneficial to people using copyrighted material. They are not fully protective. Many unjust and illegal copyright claims are still being made on a variety of creators, as I've highlighted, but in many cases, these claims are actually perfectly valid and legal. Copyright law is a bitch and can certainly be abused, but if you don't live in the United States and your videos have been, as you would define it, falsely claimed, please don't go saying, "Where's the fair use?" Because unfortunately, for the time being at least, it's only in America. Hello there. Are you a fan of my voice? Are you a fan of my opinions? Would you like to hear both of those things along with the voices of two others and their opinions as well? Check out Hot Wet Soup, the brand new podcast coming from me, Bionic Pig, and Elvis the Alien. It's over on YouTube at Hot Wet Soup, on Twitter at Hot Wet Soup, and on SoundCloud at Hot Wet Soup. We picked a pretty original name. We're Hot Wet Soup everywhere. Make sure you go give that a listen if you want to hear me talk slightly less scripted about things I'll never make videos on. Have a wonderful day, you sexy motherfucker.